The basic rule behind perspective is the closer something is to you, the bigger it appears. The further away it is, the smaller it appears, right? So if I hold my finger up here like this, and I put my other finger right beside it like this, they're the same size, right? If I do this, see how my finger shrunk? This one shrank, okay? Even though they're right beside each other. They're not. This one's actually further away. I'm touching the table with this one, and this one's about a foot away from the disc. So there's a perspective that we're dealing with there, right? So we want to represent that same perspective in this drawing by using a vanishing point out here. So that means that from this elbow point here, we're going to project a line across to our vanishing point over here. Just a very light line that's going to come across like that. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but it has to be going to that point there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to draw this part of the arm here, the bicep line, from the shoulder to the elbow, from this shoulder back here, parallel to that line. It's just going to come down like this. Where it crisscrosses through our perspective line right here, that's where we end the elbow on the opposite side. Okay, so it's going to appear to be slightly shorter. So when I flip the drawings now, what you're getting is this is popping over to there. It's the mirror image of it. All right? So now we want to draw is the forearm part of this arm here. Okay. Coming forward this way on the opposite side. Same idea. We're going from the point here on the wrist to the vanishing point, and where it crisscrosses through there at what seems like a reasonable distance from this point to this point here. In perspective, there's the distance there to this point here. That's where the wrist is going to be on this side. Okay. Now we're not going to draw the hand in at this point. I can just draw the line in. Like the perspective on this is going away from us this direction, and so we want the mirror image to be coming towards us in the opposite. So it's going to sort of look slightly weird, but I'm not going to draw it in right now. Okay, we'll leave it till the very end. All right? So here's what we want. We want to draw the mirror image of those two arms there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to flip the drawings. So we're going to take number 9, put it down on the bottom. Take number 1 and put it on top. And now we're going to draw the mirror image of this arm here in this position. So we use the same vanishing point over here. Find that point. There's our elbow in the forward position here. So we want to go across to the perspective here. Here's the bicep line across there. So we want to make this parallel from this shoulder point here. So see how I'm making lines parallel? And where it crisscrosses through my perspective line, that's where my elbow hits. Right there. Okay. And we do the same thing with the forearm down to the wrist. Take from the wrist point down here to my perspective vanishing point. This line is curving back like this. It's being dragged across, so I'm going to do the mimic of that down here, and where it crisscrosses through my line. And I don't want to make this too short, because if I shorten it up to the perspective line, it would be very, very short. So I just want to look at the relative distance gain between elbow to elbow, wrist to wrist, and get that approximately the same position. There's my two opposing arms. Okay. Now the hand in this instance here is being dragged forward. This one's going to be dragged forward here. So the path of action is going to be basically the same with the wrist point there. But I'm not going to draw that hand in yet. I'm going to leave it till later. So again, I just want to focus on the forearm and the bicep part of the line, just to get that blocked out. Next, we're going to move on to our breakdowns, which are number 5 and number 13. And we can do basically the same thing. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult, and I'll show you how we're going to do it. This one's quite easy because it's just the arm trailing back in its back position here, so it's really simple to do. We're going to do the same thing. Find the vanishing point that's over here. Make sure it's the exact same point. Over here is the elbow from the shoulder to the elbow. Now we need to find the same point from the far shoulder back to the elbow to the vanishing point. There's our perspective line. There's the line of the bicep right there. It's going through there. So I want to link that up to the far elbow or shoulder, bring it parallel The two lines are going parallel to each other, and where it crisscrosses through, there's my elbow point. Same thing with the wrist. There's the wrist down here to the vanishing point. There's my perspective line. There's the line of the forearm. Make it parallel and end it off where the perspective goes through. Here's the path of action on the hand. I'll match that up just lightly like that. Okay, so that's that arm in opposition. So I flip the drawings now. 13 goes on the bottom, 5 goes on top. So now what I want to do is I want to draw the arm in the forwardmost position. There's the bicep from the shoulder to the elbow. It's going forward, straight across. So on this side here, it's going to be going straight across this way as well. Now the perspective here is difficult because there's my vanishing point there. It's basically right along the horizon line. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to really plot out where my perspective is there, other than there's my elbow to there. It's going to go parallel to where the forearm is going. So what I have to do is I just sort of have to gauge what's the distance here and what's the distance there. It's got to be slightly smaller. So I'll just end it off roughly about there. Okay. So now my forearm, this is the tricky part, the forearm is going back and away from me. Okay, in perspective it's going back in that direction. So the elbow is closest to me, the wrist is further away. It's like this is the elbow, there's the wrist back there, so it's being foreshortened. So what I want to do is I want to crisscross my arms. So if we go back to our plan view of this, the one arm here on number 13 is where the shoulder is forward, or shoulder is actually in its middle position, which would be this position right here. And the bicep line is pretty much going straight forward. So that means it's going like this to the elbow here. And then the forearm is crossing across the body this way, with the hand being roughly about there. So therefore I've got to do the same thing in mirror image on the opposite side. There's the bicep line going forward to the elbow, and this part of the arm is going to crisscross through the center, and my opposite hand is going to be right about there. Right? So in this instance here, the elbow is farther away, the hand is closer to me in perspective, but I still have to do that foreshortening thing that's taking place right here. So there's my wrist right there, so I can sort of roughly plot through my vanishing point through the wrist and out in this direction here. It's coming towards us, so therefore I'm going to want to have my wrist roughly about there. So connecting those two together, there's the curvature there. I want to have basically the same type of curvature here in the opposite direction. Right? The hand is curving down and away from us. In this instance here, it's got to curve towards us and down. So it's going to loop across something similar to this. And I can plot out end point there through that point to figure out where the end is there. The angle of this is going up in this direction here. So therefore, on the opposite side, my pointing finger needs to be down lower, which is this edge over here. This is a little finger on this side. So I've got to go down in that direction here. Okay, so this is the toughest part of trying to figure out what that opposite mirror of that is going to be. Okay? So that's my opposite arm there. So I'm just going to erase this part of the clavicle here just so we can see the hand a little bit more clearly there. So this would be the knuckles of the hand. All right? So those are my breakdowns and my major keys without the hands. So now I'm going to repeat the process that we just went through with the shoulder. Now I'm going to focus on just the bicep line to the elbow. Right? That'll be our next stage. So we take drawing number 1, drawing number 5. But we can't take 1 and 5 because remember we delayed the elbow, right? We delayed by 2 drawings. So 2, 3. That's why my number 3 drawing is actually my key position. So 3 is this drawing here. And what's my opposite of 3? 11. So I look for my number 11 drawing. There it is there. So I'm essentially going to do the exact same thing that I just did. Okay. This time I'm just going to focus on the bicep line though. Right? So I need to find that vanishing point from my other drawings. So I'll use my drawing number 5. There's my vanishing point there. There's the point. All right. So shoulder, elbow to vanishing point. There's the bicep line right there. I want to draw from this shoulder back here, parallel to where it crisscrosses through my perspective line. There's my wrist down there. And I'm just going to lightly draw it in because I might want to modify it. And that goes off to the vanishing point there, so my cutoff is going to be right there. Alright, so that's the opposite of that one. Now I need to do the opposite of number 11. Again, is that tricky one, because now here's my shoulder in its forward position, there's my elbow way up there. So same problem that I encountered on the other one, is I've got to try and figure out how far is that elbow going to go forward. So it's going to be roughly about there. And the arm is now crisscrossing across, but it's angling down just slightly on this side here. And the hand on this side is going to work to the perspective there. So there's my wrist. And the hand's going to be dragging down this way. Okay, so that's the opposite of this one. All right. So these are now my proper keys for my bicep. 3, 11. My breakdowns are 7 and 15. My number 7. Oops. That's my breakdown. See the arm going from back here to there to the high point up here. So now it becomes confusing once I throw that other arm in, because I don't have a reference for where it's going from and to. It's going actually from drawing number 3. It's going from this position here, across like this, back to this position here. So it's swinging down and back. So I need the opposite of number 7 so that I know where the other arm is going to be, which is number 15. There's my number 15 drawing. All right. Same process as before. Find that vanishing point. Okay. There's my elbow there. Elbow's right there to the vanishing point. There's my shoulder. Drop the line parallel to the crisscross through the perspective. There's my elbow right there. This one is going down and back to the vanishing point. Again, it's on a very sharp line to the perspective line there, so I've got to sort of fake this one in. It's going to go parallel to this line right here, and then I gauge the length. Lightly block in the path of action on the hand. Flip the drawings. So we got 15 on the bottom now, 7 on top, so now I want to do the mirror image of this arm here. Elbow to vanishing point. There's my elbow, through to the vanishing point, parallel on the bicep line, where it crisscrosses through. Here's my elbow. Okay. My wrist is up there to the vanishing point. Now this one, it's going away from us, but it's curving. And this one here, it's going to be coming towards us, so it's going to crisscross through this point. It's like the arms are doing this, right? So the lines are essentially going to almost cover the bicep line right there. My wrist is going to end up there. This hand is going away from us this way, so therefore I want the opposite hand to be coming towards me in this direction here. So this hand is going to be going up in this direction, it's going to cover over that shoulder there. So I can erase that out later on. Okay, so those are the two opposites there. Okay, so now I'm at the stage where I can now come back here, go from 3 to 7, because now I'm working on just the bicep line. 3 to 7, here's my timing chart for the bicep to the elbow. Okay. 3 to 7, my halfway point is number 6. So, yoink out my number 6 drawing. Okay. So, my elbow is now going from here to here. So now I need to figure out what exactly is this path of action that's taking place here. Okay. It's going from number 3 to number 7. Okay, so what I need to do is I really need to look at my opposite drawings in order to understand what the path of action is. Okay, because I can't clearly see. Here's where it starts to become confusing. Okay, and if you don't get your brain in gear and actually start to think about what's going on here, you're going to get lost right at this point. Okay, so even for me, in my brain, I'm going, uh-oh, what am I doing? Okay, I can't just straight in between it because I don't know. What's my in between those two? In between 3 and 7. I know the shoulder's going back. It seems like the elbow's going down, but it looks like the hand is doing something weird. I'm lost. So now what I need to do is I need to go back and I need to figure out what exactly is going on the opposite side. So, what are my opposites? 3, 7, 6. 3, 11, 7, and where's my number 6? 14. So I need 11, 15, and 14. Okay, that's why this is important. Okay, if I just said to you, okay, you got 3, 7, and 6, what are your opposite drawings? Everybody would go, I don't know. Okay, so now you've got this little chart to find out which ones are where. So 11, 15, and 14. 11, 15, and where's my 14?